On April 4th, at exactly 1842, Priya's delivery van passed mile marker 6. Her headlights flickered. The dashboard lights pulsed. For a second, the engine stuttered like it might quit. Her handheld scanner logged everything: location, timestamp, delivery confirmation. That's when I knew. The electrical surges weren't isolated to the shop. They were moving, precise and deliberate, along Route 478. The scan didn't just confirm it, it proved it. But to understand what that meant, I had to go back to where it started. I pulled off onto the gravel shoulder just before dusk. The sky was a bruised violet, the road empty and quiet. Mile marker 6 was barely visible, half swallowed by weeds. Next to it stood the utility pole, rigid, ordinary, and wrong in a way I couldn't name. I walked toward it, gravel crunching underfoot, the air thickening with each step. I raised my phone and took photos. The marker, the pole, the wires. I recorded ambient audio, just the low hum of the transformer, a few crickets, and my own breath. Nothing looked broken, no sparks, no burn marks. But the stillness felt unnatural, like the place was holding its breath. My hands shook as I zoomed in on the junction box. I kept checking my watch, counting down to 1842, unsure what I expected to see, but certain something was coming. Priya's van pulled up, engine idling rough. She looked exhausted, tense. Without a word, she handed me her scanner. The screen glowed in the fading light. April 4th, 1842, mile marker 6. I scrolled through the scan. My pulse quickened. She finally spoke, quiet, clipped, said her headlights flickered, the van jolted, and for a moment she thought it would stall. She hadn't reported it, didn't want the hassle. But the scanner didn't lie. The timestamp matched the surge at the shop. I noticed how she kept glancing at the road like she was waiting for something else to go wrong. I thanked her, handed the scanner back. She drove off fast, not looking back. I stood there holding proof that this wasn't coincidence. The surge had a pattern, and it was spreading dot inside the firehouse garage. The air reeked of diesel and stale coffee. Tommy waited behind the engine, eyes flicking toward the bay doors. He handed me a folded printout, call logs from April 4th. One entry stood out, 1845, stalled vehicle, Route 478. Too close to be random. Tommy leaned in, voice low, told me not to say where I got it. He looked like he already regretted showing me. I understood why. If this got out, he'd take the fall. I scanned the log again. Another surge, minutes after Priya's. The pattern was tightening, and someone was trying to keep it quiet. I thanked him, tucked the paper into my bag, and promised to keep his name out of it. But the deeper I got, the more I realized how much people didn't want this seen. Evan was leaning against his truck in the utility lot, cigarette dangling from his mouth. When I asked about the surge and the pole at mile marker 6, he shrugged, said there was an ongoing investigation, couldn't comment. But when I mentioned 1842, he paused, flicked his cigarette away, then, almost like he didn't mean to say it, he admitted a Duracell battery pack had been swapped out at the junction box. Then he shut down, changed the subject, started talking about overtime paperwork. I pushed, but he wouldn't say more. Still the details stuck. Someone had replaced a component at the exact location where the surges kept hitting. Evan knew more than he was saying. I left frustrated, but with another piece of the puzzle. This wasn't bad luck. Someone had altered the system. The question was, why? records room at the consul office smelled like dust and old glue. Linda stood by the door, arms crossed, watching me flip through binders of council minutes. I found a short entry from late March, barely a sentence, mentioning minor electrical complaints near mile marker 6. I looked up. Linda shook her head, offered nothing. I asked for more. She cut me off, said there was nothing else on file, but her eyes flicked toward a locked cabinet before she ushered me out. The message was clear. Don't dig. But the complaints were there, buried in official records. Someone had noticed the problem. They just didn't want it traced. Dot. The next evening, I returned to mile marker 6. The sun was low, shadows stretching across the asphalt. I set up across from the pole, phone ready, eyes locked on the time. My heart pounded as the seconds ticked toward 1842. Right on cue, the streetlight above me flickered. A low buzz filled the air. The junction box vibrated, just enough to rattle the gravel under my boots. I hit record. The timing was exact, not random, not a glitch. A daily event down to the second. I felt exposed, standing there alone, the only one watching. When the light steadied, I exhaled, hands clammy around my phone. The evidence was stacking up. So were the questions. Later that night, I sat on the curb and pulled up Priya's scan beside my footage. Both showed the same thing. Malfunctions at exactly 1842, right at mile marker 6. Her scan even flagged a battery pack issue during the surge. I stared at the junction box, its metal casing dull under the streetlight. This wasn't random. The surges were engineered. Same time, same place, every day. Someone had changed something inside that box, and now the whole town was feeling it. This wasn't just a shop problem. It was bigger. If I wanted answers, I had to find out exactly what was inside that junction box. The next step was mine. If you've noticed anything unusual near mile marker 6 or along Route 478, report it. Sometimes the smallest detail is the one that cracks everything open.